Meghan Markle talks struggles of getting an acting job early in her career. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but things aren't looking so good for the Duchess of Sussex.
Sussex.
And that's my producer, Nat, right over there.
Hello.
Just ready to correct me at every turn. Thank God. Otherwise, this show would go nowhere.
Yes.
We're also going to talk F1 and Brad Pitt. The early reviews are coming in, and they seem to be mixed. You're live with the guy. I would say every day at noon Central, but starting next week, I'm just going to do the show on Monday at noon. There's usually a ton of pop culture news on Mondays, so I'll just load the Monday show. The rest of the days, I got to get kind of used to editing and doing edited videos. It's just me and Nat running two channels. That's this channel, Nat and the Guy in English. And we have a secondary channel, which is our main channel, which is Nat and the Guy in Spanish. We do broadcast live from Mexico City. Okay, if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. It really does help the channel so I can continue to bring you Meghan Markle news and everything else in pop culture.
And a regular politics show on this channel at 9:15 p.m. Central is still going to be every day.
Yep, so it's just my show that's going to kind of take a hit so I can get into edited videos. Maybe a little bit more history about Meghan Markle. People seem to love this woman. Or love to hate her, at least.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay, let's get into the first article. And I was happy to see Markle News because she's always good for the channel.
So Meghan Markle says she struggled to find mixed race acting roles before Suits, leading to chapter of self-doubt.
Okay, and we're going to get into this article in just a moment, but she just loves to virtue signal and race bait at every chance she gets. Mm-hmm. So I think because she was mixed race, she actually qualified for more roles. She can pull off the role of an African American or black person, as well as she's very fair skinned, so she can pull off the roles for white people as well. Or
you could even pull off Latina.
And Latina. Like, she qualifies for every role. The fact that she's saying she struggled is a little bit insane to me. But that being said, in the comments, if you could tell me if you like or don't like Meghan Markle. I do a lot of videos on her because every time I do one, it gets huge clicks. So far, it seems like most of the people are hate watching her. That's just the impression I got over the last few months. But if you are a fan of Meghan Markle, please let me know.
I think she gets a lot of impressions because I think she's playing around with the algorithm or has paid to rank higher or to anything talking about her to go to the top. That's just my theory.
I think she maybe had the idea that the same idea Trump has. Any news is good news because it keeps you in the media cycle. And maybe she's paying bot farms for these clicks. I don't know, but her clicks compared to every other video we do is just off the charts. And we started with just trying one, and now we just do weekly updates on Meghan Markle because that's what either people want to see or the bots want to see.
But also,
I'm not quite sure.
She's interesting to talk about because she exemplifies so well what wokeness in Hollywood and trying to self-victimize yourself, or like people when they try to play the victim. But with her, it's just ridiculous because she was in the British royal family and still tried to make herself into a victim.
Well, especially for a channel like this. This particular show is pop culture, but our night show is politics. So we do politics and pop culture. She fits into both categories for us very well because she's, well, part of the royal family or kind of part of the royal family. She has Harry. She has this woke spectrum around her. She's also in pop culture with Hollywood and everything like that. So it's kind of easy to report on her every time an article comes up. But let's get right into this article.
Okay, so Meghan Markle has revealed she struggled to find, that's not much of a reveal, but she struggled to find work before her Suits breakthrough because of lack of mixed race roles. In an interview for Emma Greed, I still don't know how to say her last name, Aspire podcast, Markle explained how she learned to overcome rejection during the formative years of her acting career. She described this as a chapter of self-doubt. I was an auditioning actress, and this was well before Suits, and you have to think, at that time, there were certainly not a lot of mixed race parts, Markle said. If I was going in for an audition, it was either you have to remember this was a very different time than it is now. Girl Next Door. That was typically blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and a certain look, but I'm half white. I would also be submitted for those roles.
she'd be submitted for every role. She ticked every box. That's why she was able to even get that Suits role. It's hard to get a role like Suits and make that breakthrough. She was able to do it even though she wasn't a very good actress.
I think that was more what was standing in her way.
Yeah, I think that was her biggest benefit, was actually her mixed race and the fact that she has the ability to manipulate her appearance to look like whatever the role kind of needs. But on top of that, is this the podcast you were kind of talking about she was doing an interview with yesterday?
Yes, so I spoke a lot about it in Spanish, and like set up for me to talk about more once I watched the podcast. But yes, it is.
Okay, I think I'll watch it today, and we'll probably do a video on it later tonight.
Because I think there's a lot more stuff that came out. Because in the podcast, she said she wanted the actual truth about her to finally come out. But I don't think she wants the actual truth. Because every time something comes out, they try to sue whoever writes it or talks about it.
She likes to manipulate what the truth is, what the actual reality of the situation is. She's been in a lot of controversies lately, especially when it comes to copyright and stealing other people's materials, stealing other people's ideas, whether it's her cooking show, whether it's her children's book, whether it's other Netflix content she's involved in. Everything seems to be, in my opinion, possibly stolen from other sources that are small but good content. So she finds creators that are small, that have really good ideas, and she tries to blow it up into the mainstream and claim it as her own. But it really backfires because people really take notice at everything she does. But
she's able to kind of put, as she says, her own narrative out because she's been doing all these different podcasts of empowered women that are essentially just 40-year-olds that come up with a way to invest their husbands or their own fame's money. Because this lady, Emma Grade, whatever her name is, she's actually a co-owner of a bunch of Kardashian businesses. So she's a co-owner of the Good American Jeans from Khloe, and of Skims from Kim Kardashian.
And she's just completely destroyed Prince Harry. Like, he had, out of this couple, he should really be the front runner in this thing. He has the most mainstream appeal before she got her hooks into him. She's completely turned this man into a simp, into something men do not want to be. You would run the other way from this particular guy's actions.
Well, she sank her claws into him because he has all this quote unquote trauma that he always talks about now. So it's not like she did it all. He also allowed himself to be put in that position. But now she's completely destroyed any relationship he had with his family, his father. I mean, yeah, he might be King Charles, but he's also still diagnosed with a pretty heavy disease. Who knows how long he'll be there? And then when William comes in, William's I'm guessing, I don't know, but William, seeing what he did, especially during the time when his grandfather and then his grandmother were essentially on their end beds, any family member would have issues with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and with the cultural transition that's kind of happening right now, going back a little bit towards masculinity and tradition and things like this would be a time for Harry to kind of really emerge. But I think she's destroyed him to the eyes of the mainstream, or at least to men and things like that, to look to him as a role model or a masculine
But I'm
figure.
not going to put it all on her. He let her. He's a little ragdoll.
What I'm trying to say,
it to happen.
What I'm trying to say is, there's no way Harry is going to emerge as some kind of leader figure in either Hollywood or in politics. If he does, it's going to be completely contrived and manufactured.
Yeah, he can't.
And again, in the comments, if you can, tell me if you do like Meghan Markle, you don't like Meghan Markle. We've reported so much on her kind of from a view of dislike, because I don't really like her in a lot of sense, and I don't think Nat does either. But I'm thinking about doing a more in-depth, multiple part history of not only her early life, her acting career, and things like this, because people seem to be interested in her. But let me know if you like her, dislike her in the comments.
Well, she also keeps asking for people to tell the truth about her. That's what she said in the previews of this podcast, that all she wanted now is for people to tell the truth about her. That's what she would have done differently. So let's see if the actual truth comes out, because there's a lot of rumors out there. So if the truth comes out, is she going to be so happy with that?
And I was never huge into the royals, but I was always aware of who Prince William and Prince Harry were. If I had to pick one when they were younger, I would have said, oh, yeah, Prince Harry is going to turn out much better than William. But
Well, he was all rowdy when he was young.
Yeah, but it seems like they were really defined by their wives. And Prince William's wife is just the
Kate
epitome
Middleton.
of traditionalism, and she has a lot of respect. She comes off a lot like Diana, I think. And I think Markle.
Markle's the one that keeps trying to be like
Yeah,
Diana.
Markle wants to.
And that's
be
where the victim.
Well, one second. Markle wants to be Prince Harry's mother, and that's what she's trying to manufacture.
Well, that's where the victim narrative also comes in with her trying to compare herself. They've even said that's why they needed all that security paid for by the British people, that they were being hunted down by paparazzi. They keep trying to make this equivalence because Harry, of course, was looking for a mother figure, and then she was looking for a way in and to be a victim, and the best way to be a victim is to be a royal victim, which is technically how Diana has been seen for a long time.
Well, maybe that's why she's paying bot for him. She can say, oh, the media loves to hate on me. It's hurting my mental health and things like that. I don't know. But that's the article today for Meghan Markle.
But also, when she was coming up and like acting, I mean, yes, she was a suitcase girl as well on, I don't even know what that show is called.
Suits?
No, the suitcase, where she opened the suitcases. It's a reality. But like,
I will admit, I did like her. I did like her in Suits, but I thought a lot of actresses could have done that role. But before the Prince Harry relationship, and she was just in Suits, I didn't know anything about her personal life. She was okay in that series, but everything since then has been a disaster.
No, Deal or No Deal.
Oh, Deal or No Deal. Oh yeah, she was in Deal or No Deal.
That's what I meant with Suitcase Girl. But I mean, even when she was doing that, there were a lot of people of a lot of different colors already working on there, and this was kind of like the J-Lo era also when she was coming up. J-Lo was still doing a lot of rom-coms, a lot of stuff with when J-Lo was very popular, Jennifer Lopez. They look exactly the same.
They look
so
a lot.
don't tell me that she had no opportunities because J-Lo was, breaking it in Hollywood.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you said J-Lo, I said, oh, she does look a lot like J-Lo. I never put the two and two together.
So it wasn't her mixed raceness. It was her not being able to act.
Yeah. And we will be back next week with more Markle news. I'm sure we're going to watch the podcast and bring it to you direct. Okay.
And I will speak about it in Spanish tonight.
Yep. Okay. Let's get into F1. And I was trying to conclude it with a wrap because I wanted to clip the segment.
You can still clip it.
Okay.
I'll teach you how to edit it and clip things out that you don't want in.
Thank you, Miss Markle.
So from Variety, F1 review, Brad Pitt swaggers through a Formula One drama that's all surface excitement.
Yeah, and this movie really did excite me. This is F1. We went to watch Mission Impossible, and this was one of the trailers. To be honest, it was the only trailer that interested me at all. I turned it at. I said, I want to see that movie. It looks good. It looks like the return of Brad Pitt. It looks like a traditional action racing movie. The perfect movie to put it as a trailer with was Mission Impossible because Tom Cruise had previously done the movie Days of Thunder. This really did remind me a lot of Days of Thunder. That was an 80s racing movie that I think is going to be very similar to this, but this will be the modern version in a modern context. It is getting mixed reviews, so I don't know if that's just the media hating on masculinity because it looked fairly masculine and it does kind of appeal to a Southern audience. Racing is getting really big right now. We do a lot of pop culture and politics, and the Indy 500 F1 is coming up in the news for breaking ratings and things like this when it comes to not only streaming, but broadcasting the races as well. So racing is getting very, very popular. This is a perfect time for this movie to release. They'll be able to advertise this movie all over any recent races that are going to be happening. Okay, let's get into the article though.
So from Owen Gleiberman, from Variety, Joseph Kosinski builds a high-powered movie out of Bruckheimer cliches, but that wouldn't matter if the races were as dramatic as they are flashy.
Okay, let's keep going. And I do like Jerry Bruckheimer for this kind of movie. A lot of people say it's a cliche. He does this well. We've gone away from traditional filmmaking and Jerry Bruckheimer style films. It would be good just to go to traditional cinema. That's what people are kind of craving, and the box office is reflecting that right now.
So there's a
Okay.
certain kind of summer movie that's so revved and ready to go, so fuel injected with flash and talent and star power, not to mention an irresistible subject that before the movie is barely underway, you can feel yourself getting excited about being excited. F1 is one of those movies. It's an epic professional auto race drama that looks and moves like a Formula One vehicle, dizzyingly fast, a touch futuristic in its synthetic design, leaving all second thoughts in the dust. Going into F1, you want to feel the thrill, the energy, the vicarious rush, and on that score, there's no denying the movie delivers.
Okay, and that being said, the one point I didn't like what the reviewer did here, and these are early reviews. A lot of the independent media hasn't had a chance to see this movie, so I'm going to be interested on what they say. I'm most likely going to go see it this weekend if I can fit it into my editing schedule here. That being said, it said it had a synthetic feel. When I seen the trailer, it seemed to have a really authentic feel, like they may have used real film cameras and things like this rather than digital. So I really hope it doesn't have a synthetic feel, but I'll have to wait and watch the movie.
Well, I think they meant synthetic feel as in it's very formulaic, Formula One, but that's what people want to see. Like, we don't need super in-depth stories anymore, which they don't even do, but just watching things happen on screen that are exciting is okay sometimes.
Well, maybe you're right, but when you do say synthetic in that context, it did make me think of Mission Impossible. I was ready to like Mission Impossible. I wanted to like the movie, especially all the hype that went into it. He did his own stunts. I watched all the behind the scenes, and it did seem really synthetic and formulaic because I used to work on movie sets and things like that in Vancouver, but Mission Impossible really felt like a movie set. It was very synthetic. I could tell where the lighting was coming from. It really seemed extremely dialogued, things like this.
And
I ended up not liking Mission Impossible as much as I thought I would. It was still a okay movie, but it wasn't for a theater recommendation for me.
And I liked it because, yeah, maybe not to watch in theater, but with Mission Impossible, for example, I did like that it felt like a movie because it brought me back to the movies of my time. So like 90s, early 2000s, because it did feel like more of a movie. Nowadays, movies, for some reason, and I'm still trying to pinpoint it, don't feel like movies all the time.
Well, I mean, you did have a difference of opinion with Mission Impossible, and that was right around the time Lilo and Stitch came out, and we covered those movies fairly heavily because I thought it was going to be a return to traditional cinema. It's funny because I wanted to like Mission Impossible, and I was telling you, oh, I don't like kids' movies, this and that. We went to watch Lilo and Stitch, and my God, it tugged at my heartstrings. I used to be an orphan. I could relate to the story a lot. I also used to live in Hawaii for a little bit of time, so I could really relate to the movie in a lot of ways. And Lilo and Stitch, I end up absolutely loving. And Mission Impossible was like, to me.
But Lilo and Stitch also kind of did feel more like a movie than what we've been seeing coming out. So
yeah, and I will be going to watch F1, so I probably will bring you a full review next week of this movie. Okay, let's go into the next one. And I'm trying to segment these topics, or at least the first couple of the big stories. And I'm not very good at concluding it seems like. Okay.
That's what you work in editing magic.
Well, you're really good at it because on our night show in Spanish on our other channel, Nat and the Guy Espanol, you do segment all your clips.
Well, not all of them, just the first one.
The good one, yeah. And I'm trying to learn to do that, but man, I'm not good. I'm not good like you.
So from the Hollywood Reporter, box office preview, will How to Train Your Dragon eat 28 years later and Pixar's Elio for lunch? Projections are all over the place for Danny Boyle's long-awaited 28-day sequel as Elio braces for a soft opening and possibly the lowest in the storied studio's history.
Yeah, and Elio, actually, I wanted to talk about quite a few of these movies here. How You Train Your Dragon is how do you say it?
How to Train
That's what I said.
Okay.
I'm going to rewind it. I'm going to watch it. You keep saying I'm not saying How to Train Your Dragon. I think you're just wanting...
You say How You Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, but you say how you... Okay, whatever.
Okay, you're distracting the audience here.
Sorry.
Back to this. Elio, this looks like a $300 million flop from Disney. And like I usually say when I go into the economics of movies, if it's a $300 movie, it's usually a $300 budget. If it's a $100 movie, it's a $100 budget. It's usually double. So this could be a $600 million flop. This did not make a lot of money at the box office like Disney was really hoping for. They were absolutely lucky they had Lilo and Stitch come out approaching $1 billion. Not quite there, but if it stays a few more weeks, it might actually hit it. Also, that being said, 28 years later, somewhat underperformed. I was watching the making of this movie today on YouTube to kind of get ready for this, and with this article, it looked fairly interesting. They used a lot of iPhones and cell phone cameras. Surprisingly, they made it look extremely good. The director had a lot of advice for upcoming filmmakers, and I did like his advice. So I'm pretty interested to watch 28 years later. I probably won't go to theaters like I will for F1, but overall, it did pique my interest when I watched the behind the scenes. I really hope they left out any politics. It kind of looks like they did.
And these are all previews and projections as to what could happen this weekend, because they're all coming out this weekend, I believe, or like Thursday, tomorrow.
And 28 years later, worldwide opening. I don't know. I think the 28 years later may have already had the opening.
No.
Okay. Then what was the third movie? Oh, How to Train Your Dragon is doing extremely well. It's just shy of projected numbers, but it's almost hitting 200 million on its opening weekend. That has opened already because we covered it all week. That being said, I think How to Train Your Dragon is going to have a ton of staying power, and that's kind of surprising that Elio, because it is a movie where it should appeal to families. That means you can sell 4 tickets instead of 1. If you have 2 kids, a husband and a wife going to see this film, and the kids want to go see it again, that's 8 tickets. That's almost 10 tickets per family, potentially. And that's why Lilo and Stitch was able to succeed at such a high rate. That's why How to Train Your Dragon is going to succeed. Elio is just failing, and it has every opportunity because it appeals to children to succeed. Usually the highest grossing movies are typically movies that can appeal to children that will nag their parents to go see the movie with them. So it sells a lot more tickets. Also, children's movies do well because a lot of kids can't get into 28 years later. So they buy a ticket for Lilo and Stitch or Elio and they sneak into the other theater. So it ups ticket sales.
So both Elio and 28 Years Later open on June 20th. Okay. At least here in Mexico.
Okay, let's go into the next article really quick. And this one was a little bit political, but we'll kind of get into this. And this has a lot to do with Gina Carano and a double standard that's being set in Hollywood. Gina Carano's lawsuit against Disney is still going on, and this directly will impact that. If Disney has any sense, and if Gina Carano is willing to settle, Disney should make her a big offer now, because this is not going to wait well for the trial and for the evidence. Now, this is going to come in at the last minute, so the judge may exclude this. I'm sure Disney's going to want this excluded, but man, if this gets in as evidence, this is going to almost guarantee a huge either settlement or verdict for Gina Carano.
So this is from That Park Place. If you don't follow WDW Pro and That Park Place on YouTube, they do shows, very interesting shows, talk a lot about entertainment and kind of, not politics, but entertainment from a different lens.
And you were on WDW Pro a week ago?
Was that just a week ago?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, I went on to speak about Pedro Pascal and why he changed his last name. There's a video on this channel about that if you're interested, and how he keeps lying to everybody about it and making himself into a victim. So thank you so much to WDW Pro, Jonas J. Campbell, and everybody else. But this is from Marvin Montanero. Mark Ruffalo and other Marvel actors attend No King's Day protests and tie Marvel properties into anti-Trump rhetoric. Gina Carano was fired for a social media post. So double standard there.
Yeah, and they're not only making political statements now, they're making political statements and attaching it to their Marvel properties, specifically Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
So, but it's not just Mark Ruffalo, but he's the most egregious case of this. Let's read on, and hopefully I actually know what he said. So if it's not in the article for some reason, a lot of these articles I grabbed just before the show, I have a general knowledge of it, but you get to see my raw and cold reaction. So let's go into it.
Over the weekend, several prominent Marvel actors joined nationwide demonstrations known as the No King's Day protests, a coordinated political campaign designed to publicly oppose President Donald Trump. The protests featured Hulk actor Mark Ruffalo, Spider-Man actress Marissa Tomei, Thunderbolts actress Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and even Guardians of the Galaxy star Glenn Close. If you notice anything there, the ages are all over 40. Organized to frame Trump's governing style as authoritarian, the protests drew thousands across the country.
And 1 second, we did cover this protest. We thought it was going to be a lot bigger than it was because the first 3 days in Los Angeles was extremely violent. I used to live in LA, so I had a lot of connection kind of with that area. And so I knew all the places they were protesting and things like that. As soon as Monday hit, people had to go back to work. They got a lot less violent, but I was expecting them to amp up for this new No King's Day on Saturday. We usually don't live stream on Saturday, but we did that day. And it was kind of a big nothing burger until I got off the air at 11 p.m. And then I kind of went to bed and I said, oh, let me just check up one more time. Sure enough, in Portland, they surrounded the ICE center. They tried to firebomb it. They broke out all the windows. They were assaulting police officers.
Well, they were doing that throughout the whole day, but they really popped off after.
Yeah, when I went to bed, I watched it in bed for 3 hours and I said, oh my God, we should have checked Portland. It was hard to get
Seattle.
It was hard to get a Portland stream though when we were on air. Everybody was focused on LA and really thought LA was going to be the most violent. There was conflicts throughout the day, but it wasn't like the previous weekend. Okay, let's keep going here.
Ruffalo was photographed marching in New York City beside Susan Sarandon, holding an American flag and wearing a hat labeled immigrant. Speaking to MSNBC during the event, the Avengers actor invoked the name of the Avengers in "We see our democracy is in real trouble. We see a president who has made himself a king and dictator, and we don't see an opposition that's powerful enough to stand up against the trampling of our rights and the trampling of the Constitution. We're going to have to be brave if we want to be free. Literally, together, we're the Avengers now."
And that was the kind of the statement that was said. We are the Avengers now. He's using the Avengers property at a protest on a much broader scale than Gina Carano ever did. Gina Carano's statement on Twitter was not even political. So the fact that she was fired, it's not going to look good for Disney. Thank God she had people kind of backing her to mount this lawsuit because a lot of things are coming out in discovery. And with this now, this is just kind of putting a cherry on top for her. It's really proving the point of her lawsuit and things like that. That being said, I think me, like a lot of other people, even though I'm pretty heavy into politics because we do have a political show, I wish movie stars and movies would just kind of leave politics out of it. The movies is what we go to when we want a break from life. I mean, I grew up extremely poor, and when I would spend my last dollars on a movie ticket to kind of escape my problems, at least for 2 hours. And now movies are just filled with politics. These actors are in and outside of theaters, just politics. It's just a mistake. And I think they're really kind of pushing studios more and more into AI actors and things like that. What do I mean by that? If studios can get audiences to accept AI actors, which I don't know is even possible, but if they can, they don't have to worry about these actors making political statements and torching $1 billion potential property or IP.
A la Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, Rachel Zegler, Mark Ruffalo.
Pedro Pascal, if somebody ever finally notices his victimhood is all fake.
Yeah, I won't go too much into Pedro Pascal because it was pretty kind of in depth and it's hard to put in a video, but you did it very well on your video on the Spanish channel.
And there's the same video I translated and made it in English, so it's on this channel as well as an edited video. And
basically his father was implanting, taking eggs because he worked at a
fertility clinic
from one woman and putting it in another without their knowledge.
Or consent.
So,
and he was chased down and searched for by the U.S. authorities also for fraud and scamming a bunch of his patients and also not recording properly all the money that was coming in.
And it's suspected that's possibly why Pedro Pascal had changed his last name to Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
So
because his actual last name is Pedro Balmaceda Pascal, but he removed the Balmaceda because his father, Jose P. Balmaceda, would show up on Google search results if anybody searched for that last name. And Benny P says, so insufferable. I suppose you mean Mark Ruffalo and all of these people that are political pawns in games they don't even understand.
Good. Well, I think a lot of studios and things like that probably have dirt on these people, and they I don't know. I just can't see a lot of this stuff happening organically, but possibly it is. Okay, let's go into the next article here.
So, can I even say the title? I'll say it. From Deadline, Death Stranding set for...
Well, yeah, not only the name of the article, the name of the outlet as well.
Oh, yeah, true.
When we're talking about YouTube censorship here,
Yes.
YouTube likes to ding us because we talk politics and pop culture. So,
And there's a lot of words you can't
so
say.
we are very aware of what you can't and can't say on YouTube.
You still say it. I try
Yeah,
to censor you.
I'm not as good as you are.
Because I used to work at a school, so I'm good at kind of censoring myself about things, how to say things.
And maybe before we get into this, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I'm trying to get to 200 subscribers, eventually, hopefully 1,000, because at 1,000, we can monetize this channel and I can spend a lot more time on it.
Yeah.
Our other channel is our primary channel. It's a Spanish language channel.
And that was already monetized.
That's already monetized. So a lot of our effort does go on focusing on that channel. Okay, let's continue.
So from Deadline, Death Stranding set for animated feature adaptation with Aaron Guzikowski on board as writer.
Okay, and go into this a little bit.
Aaron Guzikowski, raised by wolves, has signed to write the screenplay for an adult-targeted animated feature inspired by Hideo Kojima's hit action-adventure video game Death Stranding. The signing deal was announced by Japanese maestro Hideo Kojima, Tokyo and LA-based Kojima Productions, and LA-based animation company Line Mileage. The partners say the movie, which is currently in development, will be in a similar vein to adult-targeted animated genre films such as recently announced John Wick animated prequel and sci-fi horror Predator: Killer of Killers, which released this month on Hulu and Disney Plus. That's where you can tell that Spanish is my main language.
And what's going on here? Like, I just kind of put this in because I think a lot of people are interested in anime that's being turned into live action. But I think comic book IPs, as far as American comic book IPs that people are familiar with, like the Marvels, DC, people are really starting to get burned out of that. Hollywood is looking to transition. They're transitioning hard into video games right now, but anime is another sector. I notice a lot of studios buying the rights to, bringing directors in specifically from other countries like Japan and stuff like this. So it's going to be very interesting to see. We know video games are successful as IPs because they have built-in audiences. The question is there a built-in audience for a lot of these anime properties?
Well, it's not anime, it's a video game from Japan.
Yeah, but very, very similar. Okay, let's go into the next story here.
Okay, hold on, because the website's being annoying. So from World of Real, Scarlett Johansson calls Jurassic World Rebirth a love letter to Spielberg.
Yeah, and I do like Scarlett Johansson, and I am being kind of harder on her for this Jurassic Park movie. We'll talk a little bit about it in a moment, but overall, I do like her. I liked her. She really represented the Marvel Universe when she was in it, before she had the rift with Disney, fairly well. She was she really fit in that first generation where they had real actors and actresses playing these parts that had some star power. Okay, let's go into this, and I'll have the same take I probably had every time I talk about this new Jurassic Park, but let's read about it.
Given how aggressively mediocre the Jurassic World franchise has been over the last 20 years.
And that's kind of what I said yesterday.
Yes.
I'm glad somebody else is saying it.
Where was I? It's only fair if your excitement for Jurassic World Rebirth is muted. Cautiously curious, maybe. Actively optimistic, let's not get ahead of ourselves. That said, there's some intriguing names attached. Gareth Edwards, the creator Rogue One, is directing. Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, and Jonathan Bailey lead the cast. Alexandra Desplat is scoring it. Oh, cool. And original Jurassic Park writer David Koepp is back on script duty. On paper, this actually sounds promising, but we've been burned before, repeatedly.
And on paper, it sounds good. And she's saying this is a love letter to Steven Spielberg's original Jurassic Park. Every time I talk about the new Jurassic Park that's coming out, it's like nothing compares to the first one. What they're trying to do is bring back the magic from the first one. The problem is this is the feminist version. The main actress is Scarlett Johansson. And when you watch the trailer, it almost seems like the role of the scientist was written for a female, and they gender swapped the two. They put the main character as Scarlett Johansson and the scientist as a male. The two roles almost seem like they should have been switched.
Yes.
You said the same thing, so it's not just me on this.
Yeah, that it would have seemed a lot more organic, given the dialogue, the short dialogue that we see in the trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth, that the scientist role is more cautious, more scared, doesn't want to go into, typical like
She plays it
female
very
characteristics.
masculinely as well. For a female actress, she's good at playing masculinity, and she was in the Black Widow role. So people kind of do see her maybe a little bit as somebody that can take charge. As far as an actress that you're going to cast in the role, she's probably the best you're going to do.
Or Gal Gadot.
Yeah, or Gal Gadot, but her accent really ruins every role she's in. That being said, there's so much backlash right now at putting females in traditional male roles or male roles that seem to be written for males that I don't know how good this movie is going to do. We'll really have to wait and see.
Yes, because a lot of her dialogue that we do see in the trailer is, oh, don't worry, we're good at going into the most dangerous situations. I got your back, blah, 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 which is what the other guy should be saying. And then the other guy is like, dinosaurs.
And it's just hard to get excited for a Jurassic Park movie anymore. After the first one, I've been burned too many times. Like, it just never had that same magic. Maybe it was because I was a lot younger and Jurassic Park was a magical movie moment for when I was younger. Much like Terminator 2, there's just those special movies that I remember when I was a kid. Maybe I blew them too far up in my imagination remembering back on them, but no Jurassic Park has even come close to the first one for me. And I used to watch a lot of movies because I grew up a lot of my youth in Los Angeles. And so I used to go to the drive-in a lot, and that was just a whole experience. And movie theaters just don't have that same magical experience. We do have VIP theaters here in Mexico City, and it maybe does have a little bit of that magic for a walk-in cinema.
Yes.
But nothing for
You were
me.
very impressed with our VIP theaters here in Mexico.
Yeah, I was.
Because in Vancouver, all the movie theaters, at least the ones in downtown, are covered in mouse droppings.
Well,
and mice themselves.
everything's just very uncomfortable. They give you a lazy boy recliner here in the cinemas in Mexico, at least for the VIP cinemas. Okay, let's go into...
Oh, and Benny P says Mark Ruffalo, that is. The one that's very insufferable. Yes.
I agree.
Hulk smash him
And
and shut him up.
They need to recast the Hulk ASAP because anything they put Ruffalo in, audiences are going to have a backlash against.
He's also running out of time. I mean, we always talk about actresses aging out. He's aged out a while ago.
Okay, let's go into Tyler Perry right now. And I didn't really know how to take this story. So I do know quite a bit of background about Tyler Perry. A lot of his movies are non-union movies, so there is a backlash for that and things like this because he uses his own crews, but he does get movies done on the cheap for that reason.
So from BBC, Tyler Perry accused of disgusting assault in actor's $260 million lawsuit. U.S. film and TV giant Tyler Perry has been sued for $260 million by an actor who has accused the mogul of doing disgusting things to him.
Oh, so I didn't know Tyler Perry was gay.
Mm-hmm.
So
while working on his TV shows, Derek Dixon has filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles accusing Perry of using his influence in the entertainment industry to create a coercive, disgustingly exploitative dynamic while he was acting on The Oval and Ruthless. He alleges Perry promised him a successful acting career, but then subjected him to escalating, disgusting harassment, assault and battery, and professional retaliation when he didn't reciprocate Perry's unwanted advances. Perry's lawyer denied the allegations and called the lawsuit a scam to make money. This is an individual who got close to Perry for what now appears to be nothing more than setting up a scam, his attorney Matthew Boyd told the BBC. But Tyler will not be shaken down, and we are confident that these fabricated claims of harassment will fail.
Okay, and I will be interested to see this because I'm glad to see when stars stand up against this if these are false allegations. And usually I kind of wait and I say a lot of the times these things are a scam and they want a quick settlement. So I'm glad he is standing up to this. We'll have to wait and see. But a new kind of wrinkle in this is I didn't know he was gay. So the gay community or the LGBT community in general is highly sexualized. If you go to gay pride parades or anything like that, which you're kind of forced into it when we lived in Vancouver, but there's children and everything else, and grown men are dressed, dancing around naked. I don't know. I don't want to go too much into it, but the LGBTQ community can be overly sexualized, even in the workplace. I have worked with a lot of people from that community, and we'll kind of leave it at that. Let's go on to the next story.
But he was married, wasn't he?
I thought so. And
I
that's
had
why
a long-time girlfriend. at
maybe I didn't know as much as I thought I did know about him.
I mean, maybe he hasn't come out. This might be his coming out moment, or maybe it's fabricated. But as we saw with Diddy and a bunch of other things.
Okay, let's go into the next story here.
Okay. NAACP Environmental Group notify Elon Musk's ex-AI company of intent to sue over facility pollution.
Yeah, and this is ridiculous. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chinese or Russian government was kind of funding these kinds of lawsuits, and I would expect more lawsuits against AI companies in the United States. A lot of the green movement, a lot of the different political movements to create legislation to kind of hamstring not only the United States, but a lot of Western countries. The financing has been traced back to China and Russia. Right now, AI has a lot of not only military implications, but a lot of implications in general for governments and for societies. It's a race to the top. And if they can hamstring their pollution output and how much energy they're able to use and things like that, it's going to cause not only X, but American companies in general to lose the AI race. So I will be keeping an eye on this particular story. I kind of wanted to just throw it in there. Trump has been very good about tearing down regulations or giving exemptions for companies to put small nuclear reactors on location for their AI storage and their AI facilities, allowing them to actually compete at a higher level. Trump has also knocked down the red tape for a lot of mining for uranium and things like this, because these small nuclear reactors are going to need uranium. Trump understands, and so does Musk, that this is the race that is really going to dictate who has the big advantage on the global economic scale. Okay, let's go into the last story of the day. And
okay. Oh, hold on. Another Musk story. So Musk's ex sues New York over requirement to show how social media platforms handle problematic posts.
Yeah, and this is just crazy. We're seeing a lot of these censorship bills starting to pop up. We talked about one last night on our political show. And yeah, I'm not for this. I'm not for them looking into this. When it was the opposite way around, they didn't do anything like this. They actually went in and intimidated these social media companies to censor. Now they want it exactly the opposite. So I just kind of added in these two X stories at the end, and I will keep everybody updated on these. And that's it for today. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Next week, I'm only going to have a Monday show at 12 Central on Monday, because I'm trying to learn to do edited videos, more edited content. Once I get to 1,000 subscribers with the edited content, I will restart the show at noon, Monday through Friday. And do you have anything else?
Well, our regular political show at 9:15 p.m. Central is still going to be Monday through Friday. And I have a show all in Spanish in Nat and the Guy in Español.
In Spanish or in Spanish?
In Spanish on our Nat and the Guy in Español channel at 8 p.m. Central for an hour.
Yeah. Gracias. Adios. Thank you.